amid the potential blowing apart of the establishment Russian narrative today with the release of the House committee memo, which supposedly proves that Trump is not guilty of collusion. We don't know if this is exactly what was finally vindicated Trump on that, but we know for sure that Trump's not guilty. I mean, the NSA would have picked up that data a while ago. They would have picked up the evidence that Trump colluded. Amid these events, I'm going to review some facts about the supposed epidemic of Russian trolling that's the media says has descended upon our nation in the last few years. Now, first of all, the only Russian troll operation that we know of comes from this one New York Times article that came out a few years ago, which describes a Russian troll farm that employs 300 paid Russian shills for advancing pro-Russian narratives around the globe. And out of these 300 troll operatives, just a small fraction, this article describes, is dedicated to advancing English language material. That's just a small fraction of those 300. Now, of course, that's going to have impact, but how much of an impact could that really have? And secondly, last year, the FBI and the New York Times, well, the New York Times going off of the FBI's claimed that a fake American created by Russia named Alice Donovan had influenced the election by posting plagiarized articles. Now, the Counterpunch, who included these articles, has conducted their own investigation, which they've published about this Alice Donovan character, and they've found that while Alice Donovan is indeed definitely a fictional internet character created by unknown people, they have also found there's no evidence that Alice Donovan is actually created by the Russian government. You can't disprove a negative. That's how Counterpunch phrase it in their address to this issue. And so the only reason for the FBI's stating with no evidence that Donovan was a Russian created no doubt has to do with normalizing a future crackdown against dissenting media, because the material of these articles this Alice Donovan character published included some dissenting material about the establishment Syria narratives. And so Alice Donovan, that whole convoluted fiasco, really seems like an attempt by the FBI to normalize the idea that any dissenting media is Russian propaganda. And thirdly, like I've illustrated in depth in my past video, those 13 indicted Russian nationals were indicted for theatrical reasons. First, they weren't working for the actual Russian government, as far as we know. Second, those the actual material that they posted is very rarely mentioned Bernie Sanders or Jill Stein. They actually retweeted Joy Ann Reid far more times, which has led many to believe that they were really just operating a clickbait farm for ad revenue. That's what Max Blumenthal thinks. And the clickbait farm for ad revenue theory about these 13 Russians is further supported by how Facebook's former ad executive shortly tweeted after the indictments that there's no evidence they were trying to influence the election. And so, amid all this, upon reassessment of this whole situation, that we're really just under attack from a small amount of St. Petersburg troll operations, just a few dozen English language trolls, nothing really to worry about. Why do you think the media has hyped this up so much? Why have they bombarded us with these silly memes that Russia has posted and acted like they're big enough to influence a national election that was obviously under far more influence by the interference from the DNC, the interference from the mainstream media, which gave Trump billions of free dollars in advertising. Why would the mainstream media hype this up? I think part of it is to convince Americans that their fellow citizens are fomenting Russian propaganda, or themselves Russian propaganda. We've been bombarded with images of Russian trolls and spies to create paranoia, McCarthyite paranoia, about associating dissent with support for Russian interests. And so this is what how the agenda goes. And you see how after the most recent Russia story, when Christopher Steele, this sketchy character, he was paid off by Hillary Clinton to find evidence of a Russia bombshell. When Christopher Steele published that memo about how Rex Tillerson was supposedly picked at the request of Putin, how you saw this MSNBC article denouncing Trump for not funding the Global Engagement Center, which is a State Department-run U.S. troll farm, for attacking dissent online. The U.S. has its own troll farm, and this troll farm is evidently far bigger than Russia's troll farm. And then you see MSNBC trying to get us mad that Trump has underfunded it. This is madness. It's anyway. This whole Russian troll issue is part of an operation to turn Americans against each other, to confuse us, to mess up our minds, so that we have no way of knowing the tools that we need to really change things in this country, and to overthrow the deep state and this insane, perpetual war-driven or oligarchic establishment. Thank you.